Hello, I'm Tony Bowen, and welcome to my Corn Country Rails. Well, in this video, you're going to see the first day that my friend Michael and I started our trip out to the N-Scale Convention in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. We left eastern Iowa fairly early that first day, making our way from eastern Iowa to western Pennsylvania. Our hope was then to wake up the second day rather early. We had about a 3.5 hour drive to Scranton, Pennsylvania to Steamtown. Along the way, we listened to a lot of podcasts of Around the Layout and Model Railroad Talk. As soon as we arrived at Steamtown, we were greeted by a big boy, 4012, in the parking lot. This has just been cosmetically repainted and that in the last few years, and it looks great. This was also a great time for us to have a little bit of a picnic lunch before we took the rest of the day to explore Steamtown. This was our first time to Steamtown National Park. It is a free park under the National Park Service, and essentially their mission is to save and preserve unique pieces in railroading to share with future generations. And it is, in my eyes, a pretty spectacular place to visit. The visit was really neat. Unfortunately, the building, or the rest of the roundhouse, I should say, was closed. I think they were doing some remodeling and also having some staffing issues. So we couldn't get into the visitor center as we had hoped, but that was okay. We saw plenty of other things that kept us entertained for the afternoon. Really enjoyed the walkway they had elevated so you could get up close and personal to the steam engines that they did have in the roundhouse. That was pretty neat. Even though the visitor center wasn't open, the area that had a lot of the preservation stuff that they do at the museum was open. And so we were able to tour that. We were also able to get on the 2 o'clock guided tour with the park ranger to do the back shop tour. So that was very interesting as well. So the cars that were inside this building are all fully restored and are just great to look at. Done an excellent job preserving these pieces. The day we were at Steamtown, it was about 93 degrees, so we stopped by my truck several times to get refreshments of water and Gatorade just to keep ourselves hydrated for the afternoon. Like a lot of museums, unfortunately, they can't get everything inside and protected from the elements. So they have no problem with you wandering the area as long as you're safe and don't climb on any equipment that you can kind of see in their yard. Some things that are fully restored that they use on weekends, and some that are obviously long-term projects that they hope to preserve in the future. On a normal operating weekend, they would run a steam engine and a small excursion train. The train comes in and turns on the turntable and then takes to the next excursion out. Unfortunately, it wasn't running that day. We arrived on a Tuesday because that's what worked on our schedule. But nevertheless, everything was really neat to see. Around 2 o'clock in the afternoon that day, we knew we had to get right back to the turntable area of the museum because that's where the National Park Ranger would do a guided tour. So we headed that direction so we could take part in this free tour of the back shops.
Geometric design, because think of a circle. How many stalls can you get into a circle as opposed to a long rectangle or just a length of building? You can get a lot more in a circle. The center part of your circle is your turntable. Easily turn the steam engine, get it into the stall. The doors are just narrow enough for the steam engine. Because where's most of the work being done? That end. Okay, the front end where the steam engine is, where the cab and the boiler and everything is. They would go underneath and they would check rods. An indispensable tool in this shop is a ball-peen hammer, and they still use them today. Why would you need to do that? On the railroad, sometimes you get what's called flat spots. Okay, on your wheel, a flat spot can develop, and then you get this wobble effect. Same as on the steam engine. Did you ever see a steam engine start up and the wheels are going like this before they lay sand down? If you do that on a regular basis, you're going to get a flat spot on your steel tire. And then the tire has to be correct. Both sides have to be true. Put it on a machine like this. This is the King machine. It's probably the biggest machine we have here in the shop. A boring machine would bore out a hole, make it bigger. You figure out how much you have to shave off. Because a lot of times when you get those tires, you purchase them full time.
Okay.
So things get done, but on a different schedule.
Right.
Yeah. It's on the crane, or up there, that's the other one. This is a planing machine, just like you would plane wood. How many plane wood? Plane. This plane's metal. Here's your little cutting tool right here. So once again.
There were many interesting things that we learned on this tour. Also, it was amazing to find out that at one time over 5,000 people worked in this facility, and a steam engine could be torn down and back out on the road within a week's time. Obviously, that is not the case now because it's essentially done with volunteer help, and so getting things back out to running operations takes a whole lot longer when you're basically relying on volunteer support. So this is their next big project they're working on. Just a few slides back, you saw these 80-inch drivers. It's going to go for this Boston and Maine locomotive that they're calling the Constitution. And essentially they are hoping to preserve and get this up to running someday in the future. So we also got a little rail fanning in. This is the Delaware-Lackawanna short line railroad that was actually shoving some cars back. We were going to make our way to the Trolley Museum, and since the Trolley Museum was closing at 4 o'clock and we had about 20 minutes to spare, we thought rail fanning this was maybe better use of our time. And well, I happened to see a locomotive with my MMR number on it, and I'm a sucker for getting a picture taken with any locomotives. That's 414. So this train had just come back to the Scranton area after setting out and picking up some cars. It was getting ready to tie down for the night. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Next video will come out will be more of the check-in for the N-Scale convention and what our first day at the convention looked like. So be looking for that to come in the near future. Thank you again for watching, and happy railroading.